Look, don't say I didn't warn you, but if you're not careful, Midland is about to take all of your money. Since the beginning, one of the things that really got me into overlanding was I really love that Australian overland look. Like the way they set up their rigs with the lights and the antennas and just the overall vibe of Australian vehicles, it just looks so good to me. I mean, they basically pioneered overlanding, so of course. Now fast forward about a couple of years, as I'm building out the vehicle, I decided to go with the Midland MXT275 GMRS radio. Bought that radio, but I knew that I wanted to upgrade the antenna. The antenna it comes with is this thing, and it's not a bad antenna, it's just a little rinky-dink. It's so adorable though. Now at the time, Midland didn't really have that many antennas that you could upgrade your GMRS radio to. They had this ghost antenna, which is this little nub right here, and then they had the whip antenna, which was the closest thing that I could find to that big antenna look. Now, for those of you who run CB, well, you know those antennas. They're humongous, they're beefy. To me, they look really awesome, and I think that a lot of the Australian guys were running CBs, which is why they had those huge antennas, and that's kind of the look I was trying to go for. But this, as great as this thing was, just doesn't give it that same kind of look. Well, Midland hit me up last week and said, hey, do you want to try out these new antennas that we're coming out with? And the moment I saw them, I geeked the out. These are Midland's brand new GMRS antennas. This is the look that I have been wanting. This is the look that I've been hunting for. For those of you who have been wanting that big antenna feel, they finally came out with them. These are not even available yet, but let's do a quick comparison to the other antennas too, so you can kind of know what we're dealing with here. Now, these are all the different antennas that you could run with your GMRS radio. This antenna is what comes with the kit. It stands about 6 inches and it works well. I tested it out. You can actually watch that video when we installed the MXT575 in the 4Runner. And it has a decent amount of range, but I think it could be better. This is the Ghost antenna, and this stands at about 3.5 inches, and you get about 3 dB gain with this one. If you want a more cleaner, like you don't want your antenna to kind of shout out, this is a really good option for you. If you don't want the bigger antennas, but you do want something a little bit more than this, then you can upgrade to the whip antenna, which is what I've been running since day one. This one comes in with a 6 dB gain, and it stands about 31.5 inches tall. But if none of these move you, that's why I'm really amped with the 2 new offerings that they have. This one stands at about 28 inches, and you're also gonna get 3 dB of gain with this one as well. So it's similar to the Ghost antenna. 3 dB gain, but it is longer. You're going to get a lot more coverage, a lot more reception. So even if both of these are 3 dB gain, you're still gonna get probably better reception with an antenna that's this long. Now, if that's still a little too short for you, then you can move up to the big boy. This is their 6.6 dB gain antenna, and it stands about 47 inches. All right, funny story. I actually went and test fitted this on the bull bar of the Jeep just to kind of see how it looks. And at the time, half of the Jeep was inside the garage, and this thing is so tall that I couldn't pull it back out of the garage. Like, I had to unmount it just so I can put the Jeep back in the driveway. Now, one downside that I did see is that these new antennas are not gonna be NMO connector compatible. These other antennas, you basically get an antenna mount with an NMO adapter at the end of it, and you basically screw these into those NMO adapters, which allows you to switch out your antennas anytime you want. You just unscrew it and then put the new one on. If you've been running one of these antennas like I've been, you're gonna need to remove that entire cable that runs to your unit because you won't be able to reuse that antenna cable again. this has the cable already built into it. Now with the short antenna, to get this thing mounted, you basically put this through the hole of your bull bar, and then there's a ring that goes through the cable, and then it will basically sandwich this to your bull bar. The good thing about the bigger one though is that it also has a ring, a much beefier ring, but this ring has a little notch. So it has that notch, you can just kind of slip this on there. You don't have to run it through the entire length of the cable, and then it basically just screws in and you are good. But yeah, I don't want to keep talking. I want to get these on, see how they look, test them out. This one's gonna go in the 4Runner, and then this one's gonna go in the Jeep. I'm not gonna do an install video, like there's just no need. If you're watching this video now, it's probably because you already have a GMRS radio installed and you wanna see the different offerings that they have in the event that you're thinking about upgrading yours. But let me get these on, show them to you, and then we'll get them tested. All right, quick walkthrough of what I've done. Got the really tall antenna mounted to the bull bar of my front bumper. I had put a post on Instagram polling everyone whether they would rather see it up here on the bull bar or on the bumper. And everyone said to put it on the bumper, that way it would be kind of hidden underneath there and it won't stick up so much. But after I tried to mount this into there, I had a hard time getting a wrench or anything or any kind of socket inside there to tighten it because the crash bar is in the way. But I personally, I like it there. I don't know, man. It has just that look that I really like. I am planning on probably getting a folding antenna mount. Then in those moments where I need to work on the engine, I can kind of just fold this down this way and then it'll be out of the way, and then I can work on whatever it is I need to work on in there. Now the 4Runner, my wife did not want it on the bull bar. Midland did give me a bull bar clamp to use, but my wife did not like anything sticking up in the front. So instead, I used the old mount that we had before, that we were using with the stubby antenna that goes on the tailgate. I had it originally up here and it just made this antenna stick up way too much. So I put it a little bit lower so it's not so high up and my wife can still clear some parking garages. And I actually really like that it's lower like that. And that is the setup of these brand new antennas. I think they look pretty amazing. Alright, we're going to go ahead and test out these new antennas. I am really hoping to beat the 11-mile record that we got last time. That 11 miles was actually pretty impressive, considering that we live in an area that's very flat. We don't have the higher elevations to get clearer line of sight, except when someone gets to the top of the bridges. Also, this whole place is just riddled with houses and buildings and a bunch of obstacles that can get in the way of a really good transmission. When we ran that test, we had just finished installing the MXT 575 in the 4Runner, along with the stock antenna that it came with. And in the Jeep, I was still running the MXT 275 with the whip antenna that gets you about 6 dBs of gain. Well, this time, we are both running the MXT 575 in both vehicles, which is the strongest GMRS radio that Midland offers, gets us about 50 watts of power. And on the Jeep, I'm running the 6.6 dB gain large antenna that they just sent me. And in the 4Runner, we're running the shorter 3 dB gain antenna that they just sent me as well. So I'm hoping that these new antennas will get us past that 11 miles. It's a clear day, so let's hope for the best. I'm going to have my wife drive out and we will see. All right, so she is heading out. Check 1, 2, make sure we're working.
I'm picking up people.
Yeah, let's switch to 17.
17.
All right, we're good. All right, so you're about 1.5 miles away. Come in. How do you sound?
You sound clear.
1.5 miles away, sounding really good so far. All right, you're 2.5 miles away. Come in. Are we getting a lot of static? That's because she is in an area right now with really tall buildings. So once she gets past that, I'm sure it'll clear up a little bit. All right, she's about 3.5 miles away now. Let's see how she sounds. All right, come in. Do you hear me?
I
She got past all those buildings and now we're getting better reception again. All right, I'm looking over here. She's on the top of the bridge. Let's see if we can get a clear signal. All right, come in.
You sound really clear.
Yeah, it's sounding really, really good over here also. All right, you're off the bridge now, right?
Yes, I am.
So here comes the static. Again, you just reached about 5.5 miles away. How do you sound now?
I can hear you staticky.
All right, so she's about 5.5 miles away. She's starting to get a little staticky. Again, a lot of obstacles over there, but she is about to hit another bridge, which is actually longer and taller. So I'm sure we'll get clearer signal once she gets to that. All right, she is now approaching the next bridge. Come in, do you hear me?
I can hear you.
While we're getting good reception, I kind of want to show you how clear this thing is sounding when the line of sight is really, really good. Check this out. All right, so you're on the bridge now, right?
I'm on the bridge right now.
All right, you can keep talking because I want to kind of show how clear you're sounding right now.
Okay, well, I'm on the bridge and I'm still driving.
I said I wanted you to sound clear and then it got staticky for a minute. Yeah, it's going to sound really clear and then you get static because, of course, that would happen to me.
I'm at the highest point of the bridge.
So yeah, when you're getting really good reception, it's sounding really, really good. Not to mention that the MX-MC01 has noise canceling, so it takes out a lot of that static in the background. All right, yeah, so as of right now, you're about 7 miles away. Can you still hear me okay?
I can hear you. It's just static. I am coming off the bridge.
It is still sounding clear, so that's a good thing. I think once you get on the interstate, I think we'll be able to get clear signal again.
Yeah, I can still hear you, but it's staticky a little bit, but you're still coming through clear.
All right, guys, she is now at 10 miles away, so we are a mile away from our record.
I can hear you now.
So she can still hear me, 10 miles away. You are 11 miles away, so that was our existing record. Let's see if we can get past that.
I'm on the interstate. Can you hear me?
All right, you are 12 miles away. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're still clear.
So we've beat our record already. Let's see if we can keep pushing. All right, you are now 13 miles away. Can you still hear me? Check 1, 2. You are 13 miles away. Can you hear me? It's coming through. Check 1, 2. You are 14 miles away. Can you hear me? All right, so I think that's it. We topped out at 12.5. I was still getting transmission at 13, but I'm not really going to count that because it's inaudible, so that doesn't really count. I will say that these antennas are much, much more clearer than what I've had before. You can totally tell just from that everything, when you do have that transmission, is coming in so clearly. It's almost very cell phone-like how funny that is. But I'm going to give it one more test. She's at 14.5 miles away right now. Let's see if I can get a transmission. Can you hear me or no? All right, I'm calling it 12.5 miles. That's what we got. Beat our existing record by about 1.5 miles. Look, there is no denying that Midland is currently killing the game right now. Like, they're just cranking out one dope product after the other. They started with the Midland MXT575 GMRS radio, which is a 50-watt radio, the most powerful radio that the FCC allows. Then they started offering the MX-MC01 microphone, which is an upgrade to the microphone that radio comes with. Bigger screen, better sound clarity, easier to use. And now they're coming out with the heavy heavy-duty bull bar antennas, which just looks so sick. Like, to me, that's just the perfect example of a company that listens to their customer base. Like, what do you want and we will deliver. Like, we asked for a more powerful radio and they delivered on that. Then we asked for a better microphone, something that's easier to read, and they delivered on that. And then for those of us who've been wanting these beefier antennas to put on our rigs, well, now they're going to be available. Like, I just cannot wait to see what other products you guys are going to come with, because you guys are on a roll. So keep that energy going. Midland is about to take all of your money. All right, so let's talk results. First test on the Jeep, I was running the MXT 275 with the whip antenna that gives you 6 dBs of gain, and on the 4Runner, we were running the MXT 575 with the stock antenna that it came with. Gave us 11 miles. This time around, we are both running the MXT 575 with the brand new antennas that Midland sent us. We beat our record by about 1.5 miles. We got it up to 12.5 miles. Not gonna lie, it's not a lot. In my head, I was thinking I was gonna get like 5 more miles or something like that. Unless you're taking your antenna to the rooftops, you're not gonna get that much more of a gain, because you're still gonna be blocked by many of the buildings and houses and trees and all the stuff between you and the person you're trying to communicate with. Case in point, anytime she got to the top of any of the bridges, it was super clear. So that just tells you that if you clear up that line of sight a little bit, you're gonna get a lot better transmission. But what really impressed me the most is anytime we were getting the good transmission, the signal was coming in so clear. Now, you may not have been able to tell that on the test, but from the time that I filmed that test to the time that I'm actually filming this now, we took both vehicles to the Southeast Adventure Vehicle Expo, and my wife and I were caravanning together, and in that caravan, we would just use the microphones. Now, mind you, we were never more than 1 mile apart from each other, so of course we were gonna get good signal, but just the clarity of it really stood out to me. Never in all of the caravanning I've ever done has the radio sounded that good before. Now, of course, if you're just caravanning or going off-roading with some people and you're just right behind each other, you're gonna get good signal. I mean, you can get good signal with just regular FRS radios. So I'll be honest, upgrading to these antennas just for that kind of a scenario is probably not gonna be worth it. What you have right now probably will suffice if all you're trying to do is talk to the people in your caravan. However, if you are trying to get like good signal, if you want something to come in really clearly that you can understand what people are saying on your radio, or if you are trying to reach people that are further away, these antennas are super powerful and will treat you well, especially if you're like in an area that's super flat, like there's barely any houses, there's no buildings, or if you're in an area that has elevation, you're gonna get better line of sight, and I can guarantee you're probably gonna beat the 12.5 miles that we got out of them. Me, I am loving these antennas, and I think I've already made that clear. I just love the look of the beefy antenna on the bull bar, or the beefy antenna in the rear of the vehicle. It's not for everyone. A lot of you might want the skinnier antenna or the stubby ghost antenna and kind of be more discreet. But for me, I wanted something that had this outback kind of look, and I am loving it. Now, I do have one gripe, and I'm hoping that when Midland sees this is something they consider when they redesign this thing, because I can already see a problem happening in the future. Okay, so I know that we can't use NMO connectors for these antennas, and you don't want to. These are just way too big, way too bulky, way too heavy to be screwing into a little tiny NMO connector. With these, you just kind of slip the antenna through the mount, and then you put your nut at the bottom. My gripe is that as of right now, the antenna cable and the antenna itself are fixed to one another. There's no way to detach them, which is fine in your initial install. You just run your cable, do whatever mount you're putting it on, slip the antenna through, and then route the cable to the inside of your vehicle and plug it to your unit. Well, let's say you found that it's not really getting good reception there, and you want to move it to a different location or try it at a different location. Now you have to unplug it from your unit and then unroute it through all the little crevices that you have it going through, just so you can take the antenna off. I wish that you could take the antenna and the cable apart from one another, so that I can just take the antenna off, take the cable off, find a new place to mount the antenna without having to take out the routing to the inside of the vehicle, find a new spot, and then screw it into there and see if it works better. And I want to be able to have that kind of a flexibility. So in this instance, you kind of have to already decide where you want to mount this antenna, or go through the whole process over and over of rerouting and unrouting it, especially when you're having to go through the firewall. That can be a little bit difficult. So hopefully their next version of these antennas, you're able to detach the cable from the antenna itself, so you have the flexibility of moving the antenna to different locations. But anyway, that's it. That's my review of these brand new Midland GMRS antennas. Like, thank you, Midland, for sending this over and sending it to me before they're even available to the public. Like, I just feel so honored to be one of the first few people to try these out. I took these to the Southeast Adventure Vehicle Expo, and it got so many looks and so many people were asking questions about them. A lot of people were really digging these. So I'm glad you guys came out with these antennas, and I'm so thankful that you guys sent it over for me because it just fits the look of these vehicles so well. As for the rest of you, I hope I sort of helped you make the decision if this is the kind of antenna that you want to upgrade to in the future. If you found this video helpful, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and also consider supporting us on Patreon so we can continue to make more content like this. And as always, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Baptism Overland. My name is Asia Sampson, and I will see you next time. I mean, if I'm being really honest, I polled people asking where I should put that large antenna, but in my mind, I already knew where I was going to put it. Like, there was just no question. It was going to go on that bull bar. Sorry, not sorry.